I hate this.
Sorry, Sean, but we had to punish you somehow.
But it's Halloween, and I have a really cool costume.
Well, Sean, what have we learned?
CinemAttack Handbook, Article 4, Section 7, Paragraph 2, all storylines of any kind are strictly prohibited from airing in the show, blah-de-blah-de-blah.
Well, would you look at that? You may have a future in this business after all, Sean. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have an episode to open. I bid you welcome, all you ghosts and goblins, and welcome to our debut Halloween special. It's an episode of firsts here at CinemAttack, with our very first review of a remake. And what do you know? It's a remake of a famous horror film. Now who saw that coming? Yes, you did, Larry. You did call that one. Good work. Anyway,
I believe you're forgetting something, Max.
Always gotta do this to me, Larry. All yours.
Told ya.
Anyway, today's Feast of Fears begins with our review of the remake of one of the most celebrated horror films of the 70s, Carrie. The terror train keeps treading along with a trailer challenge and newsreel, capping it all off with a recommendation domination specifically designed for what to watch on the eve of October 31st. It's a celebration of sinister, spine-tickling, and spooktacular scares, and I couldn't be happier to be spending it with my fellow cinemaphile friends. I'm a poorly dressed detective.
I'm Batman.
And I'm Sean. Just Sean.
And this is the very first CinemAttack Halloween Special. You know, I'm very confident in this episode. In fact, I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So, if you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now is your chance to, well, we warned you.
There aren't many students at Ewan High School who have it as rough as senior Carrie White.
Not only is she shunned and ridiculed by her peers, but her crazy religious mother is extremely restrictive of her exposure to the outside world.
But there's something very special about Carrie. As it turns out, she's got some pretty powerful telekinetic powers just waiting to be unleashed.
When invited to prom, there's no telling what Carrie or the students are in for.
Carrie has a very simple, straightforward plot, which was nice. Now, I've actually heard some critics and viewers list this as a weakness, like it doesn't feel like it should be on the big screen, rather it should be on television. And I strongly disagree with this. And only partially because Stephen King miniseries are always terrible. Thanks to movies like Gravity and Carrie, I've begun to appreciate simplicity in terms of storytelling. It lets the film operate by the same set of parameters from beginning to end, and do great things in that space. Carrie's core is all there is to it, which is fine because they do that core well. There are no extras or distractions for both the filmmakers and the audience, which helps bring clarity and focus to both fronts.
So in that regard, the film also has pretty good pacing. Now, I will admit it feels a bit on the short side as far as length goes, but the story's pretty simple, so why overextend it?
Carrie, whether the novel or film, is recognized as one of the great revenge fantasies of its time. Much like 1971's Straw Dogs, it's all about mental boundaries and how much torment we can take before snapping like a twig. But unlike the remake of Straw Dogs, the remake of Carrie isn't complete garbage, and one of the reasons for that is its understanding of the less is more technique. Less blood and guts overall leads to the scenes with blood and guts having more value and more of a scare factor. The moments in Carrie that really made my skin crawl was the little stuff, such as Margaret White digging her nails into her legs so badly that she cuts herself. Intentionally. It's the same reason why that fingernail scene in Black Swan still creeps me out so badly. Subtlety works a lot more than buckets of blood.
But the area in which Carrie shines the most is within the scares and the thrills of the movie. The movie at many times actually got me pretty freaked out, and when it needed to be intense, it delivered completely. The film has just enough thrilling moments in it to make it feel like it's not being oversaturated with them, and the film does a very good job of balancing thrilling moments with dramatic moments, all making a fully cohesive story. Really, if there's one overarching problem with Carrie, it's the fact that there's no tight grip on any element in the film. Maybe if the script was looked over one more time, or maybe if some things were reshot, this wouldn't be the case.
My biggest problem with Carrie is the lack of character depth. All of the characters are very clearly defined, which is definitely a good thing, and the film definitely deserves credit for that. But we never go any deeper into them. Basically, we have an extremely clear surface picture of this person. But it's still just surface. Also, the high school bullies are just way too over-the-top, cruel, and inhuman. Look, I know there are jerks in high school. The guy who has nothing better to do on a Friday night than make a web show about movies knows that there were jerks in high school. But they're not like this. When I think about it, I liked all of the minor characters. As characters, they all fulfilled their roles and expectations, and none of them fell short.
There's nothing attention-grabbing about any of these characters, they're just archetypes. The religious nutcase, the bitchy popular girl, the badass with a leather jacket, the teacher that stands up for the outsider. I mean, you've seen these all before. Except now, they're even more generic. And speaking of the characters, Carrie's cast is pretty lacking. Now, I want to say that I firmly believe that Chloe Grace Moretz has the potential to be a fantastic actress. But her performance here has proven to me that she's not there yet.
Chloe Grace Moretz does an excellent job as Carrie White. All of her emotions seem very genuine, and she definitely sells her crippling anxiety, terror, etc. You simply can't communicate those emotions properly without going all out, and I'm very happy to see that Moretz gave it her all.
Carrie boasts two very talented leads, with Julianne Moore and Chloe Grace Moretz playing Margaret and Carrie White. Both of their performances are very good, as they definitely get into their characters, and they have a relationship on screen that's not too over the top for their own good.
I know that Julianne Moore is a fantastic actress, but her performance here is convincing me that she's lost touch of what makes her so good, if not for at least a moment.
Carrie is surrounded by a solid supporting cast. Julianne Moore was very creepy and very unsettling, which was weird from such a usually likable actress. Miss Desjardins was very warm, but also harsh when she needed to be. I liked Tommy Ross, he was surprisingly likable, and I especially liked Sue Snell for her attempts at redemption.
However, on the opposite end of the spectrum, the supporting cast is actually pretty weak. Specifically Carrie's peers, or the teenagers in the film. Honestly, it came off as very cliche and underacted, and I would have picked some other more well-known actors.
Judy Greer, Gabriella Wilde, Patricia Doubleday, and the rest are just really unremarkable. And that's really the one word that best describes Carrie. Unremarkable. Everything from the plot to the performances to the soundtrack. It's just so unremarkable.
I just feel that many of the elements of Carrie had much more potential to be great, but they're so overabundantly flawed that the movie holds them back.
At the same time, though, there's nothing truly bad about the film either. I mean, it's competently made, the visual effects are pretty cool, and the less is more dynamic works really well.
So, all in all, Carrie is a well-made film. It's very enjoyable at times, and on paper, this film did have the potential to be a great horror reimagining. However, the film never really masters anything it tries to do, thus leading to a roller coaster of quality.
Carrie turned out to be something that I didn't expect. It surprised me even, which I definitely appreciate. It caught me off guard with its quality, sure, but more significantly, its theme. It isn't a vengeful story of bad people getting their dues. It's a tragic tale of what happens when someone's pushed beyond their breaking point, and a very good one at that.
So, while it's not flawless, you can tell Carrie has good intentions, and I personally see it as a welcome new look at Stephen King's classic tale.
I'll say it's a film that could have been great. but it's too scared of its own shadow to break the mold. The movie was right though, I will know her name. I just won't remember it.
Carrie gets a B-.
Carrie gets a 7.5 out of 10.
Carrie gets a 3 out of 5.
More Scarlett Johansson, a new villain, kick-ass action, and an interesting storyline. I'm down.
This is looking great. We're gonna get some morality themes, and the action looks like some of Marvel's best.
Captain America against S.H.I.E.L.D. That's awesome.
To all those interested in what is going on in the movie world, please gather around and I did not mean literally. Just come on, give me some space. Thank you. This is the CinemAttack Newsreel. Real world politics and Hollywood have once again clashed, this time in an especially interesting way. WikiLeaks is one of the more influential non-profit groups in the current political landscape, publishing thousands of leaked, classified articles, videos, photographs, etc. from countries all over the world. Supporters claim that the organization stands for a more transparent world, one where the public is no longer kept in the dark, and governments are held accountable for their actions. On the other side, many see the organization as reckless and dangerous, blindly releasing information that was kept secret for legitimate reasons, endangering foreign affairs, domestic disputes, and even people's lives. Whichever side you're on, I think we can all agree that this is a very interesting topic for a potential film to cover. Enter The Fifth Estate, the first major motion picture to cover the story of WikiLeaks' rise. It received mixed reviews from the critical community, but no one seemed to be as critical of it as Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks himself. While it is nothing new for somebody to object to aspects of a film based on their lives, Assange took it a step further, personally writing a letter to Benedict Cumberbatch, who plays Assange in the film. In this letter, he bashes the movie, but stays very respectful towards the actor himself, saying, "The Fifth Estate does not seek to simplify, clarify, or distill the truth, but rather it seeks to bury it. As justification, it will claim to be fiction, but it is not fiction. It is distorted truth about living people doing battle with titanic opponents. It is a work of political opportunism, influence, revenge, and above all, cowardice. You will be used as a hired gun to assume the appearance of the truth in order to assassinate it, to present me as morally compromised and to place me in a falsified history. I believe you are a good person, but I do not believe that this film is a good film." Benedict Cumberbatch later publicly replied to Assange during an open Ask Me Anything Q&A session on Reddit, saying, "To have the man you are about to betray ask you intelligently and politely not to do it gave me real cause for concern. I believe that the film quite clearly illuminates the great success of WikiLeaks and its extraordinary founder, Julian Assange. The Fifth Estate is a powerful, if dramatized, entry point to a discussion about this extraordinary lurch forward in our society. I wanted to create a three-dimensional portrait of a man far more maligned in the tabloid press than he is in our film, to remind people that he is a force to be reckoned with, and achieve the realization of the great ideal. I'm proud to be involved in tackling such a contentious character and script." While both men clearly hold high opinions of each other, especially on Cumberbatch's part, they seem to be on opposite sides of the spectrum regarding the film's quality and truthfulness. Well, Assange can rest easy, because in the end, The Fifth Estate had a truly horrendous opening weekend, and things did not improve. As of October 23rd, it has only made a measly $3.7 million worldwide, or roughly 13% of its production budget. This is one of the worst box office performances of the year, which is surprising given Cumberbatch's current level of fame. What do you think? Did Assange's comments affect the success of the film, or do audiences simply no longer care about WikiLeaks? Was Assange right in calling out the film? Was Cumberbatch right in defending it? Do films like this actually have a moral obligation to be 100% truthful? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. This has been the CinemAttack Newsreel.
Good tidings, you monsters of madness, and welcome to a very special Recommendation Domination. As opposed to the usual blend of past and future, I've got 4 of my favorite horror movies to share with you. Do any of them have to do with Carrie? No, but who cares? It's Halloween, all rules are just thrown out the window. Let the sacrifice begin. I start off this spine-chilling lineup with one of the seminal horror films of all time, 1931's Frankenstein. As a fan of the Universal monster movie era that thrived during the Great Depression, Frankenstein stands as the best of them all, a poetic tragedy that remains an entertaining delight to this day. From the atmosphere of the Mad Doctor's laboratory to Edward Van Sloan's warning to the audience that opens the film, it seems like it's from a different world when watching it today. It's a product of a very different time, but the performances of Colin Clive, Mae Clarke, John Bowles, and the rest still stand as a mighty work of drama. And of course, Boris Karloff as the monster, one of the best of his time. It's a movie that anyone interested in the genre's history needs to watch. No exceptions. Sticking with the monster motif, we move to the other side of the Pacific for my favorite foreign film ever, Godzilla. No, not that one. There we go. For the very first installment in the Godzilla series, the original Japanese Godzilla is the closest to a horror film that the franchise ever became. What works here is a sense of realism and detail, symbolizing the monster as a product of the nuclear fallout that devastated the country in the 40s. Perhaps it's more depressing than scary, but it still works thanks to excellent camera techniques and succeeding at taking the material seriously without robbing it of its charm. The monster may be known to all ages these days, but back then he was the most terrifying thing ever. And that's awesome. Now, if we were going to go chronologically, my all-time favorite horror film would be next. But I'm going to save that for the finale and talk about the movie that closed the book on the slasher film genre, Cabin in the Woods. This is one of those movies that manages to give full commentary on the slasher film subgenre without being cheesy about it. Though it may follow some of the cliches of the subgenre that it also lampoons, it's a comedic piece with a third act that really makes you sit back and think about what horror films really mean to you. Commentary about genre boundaries and conventions is a personal favorite topic of mine, so it's no wonder that I enjoy Cabin in the Woods so much. It's the final word on horror film cliches, and a damn good one at that. Finally, we get to my favorite horror film, a movie that shook me to my very core when I was little. From Tobe Hooper, the director of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Steven Spielberg, it's the 1982 phenomenon, Poltergeist. Do you know why Poltergeist works so well? No, really, that's not a rhetorical question. I seriously have no idea why this movie is so amazing. Maybe it's that Spielberg magic. Maybe it's the simplicity of the story turned into an emotional joyride. Maybe it's the incredible visual effects that still hold up today. Maybe it's the incredible score. Or maybe it's the fact that this movie is the quintessential horror film to show kids. I can't tell you exactly what it is that makes Poltergeist my favorite horror film, but there's enough evidence to suggest that it's a great film that you should watch anyway. A certified classic in every sense of the word. That's all the recommendations I have for this episode, my friends. If you have any horror movies that you'd like to recommend that we watch on this hauntingly beautiful evening, please let us know in the comments section. Until then, thanks for watching, and remember, the best films you'll ever see, you may not have seen just yet. So, as we close another episode of CinemAttack, I remember one of the greatest parts about Halloween. When the day is done, the good times have only just begun. As your host, I am absolutely honored to bring in this new tradition. So, until November, my friends, I'm Max Mariner.
I'm Larry Freed.
And I'm Sean Capdeville.
Happy Halloween, everybody.